Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today we're stepping back in time to a moment that reshaped our world. Picture this. It's January 10th, 1946. World War II is finally ended, leaving scars across the globe. But amidst the rubble and the grief, a new hope is dawning. In the heart of London, at Methodist Central Hall in Westminster, a historic event is unfolding. This is the day the United Nations General Assembly holds its very first session. Imagine the scene. Delegates from 51 nations are gathered, a diverse assembly of men and women united by a common, desperate goal to prevent another global catastrophe. The air is thick with a mix of cautious optimism and the heavy memory of war. They weren't just politicians or diplomats. They were survivors, witnesses to the most destructive conflict in human history. Their mission was monumental: to build a framework for international cooperation, to promote peace, and to champion human rights for all. This wasn't just another meeting, it was the birth of a new era. The idea of an international body wasn't entirely new. After World War I, the League of Nations was formed with similar ambitions. However, it ultimately failed to prevent the rise of fascism and the outbreak of another world war. Key nations, like the United States, never joined, and it lacked the power to enforce its decisions. The founders of the UN learned from these mistakes. They knew this new organization needed to be stronger, more inclusive, and have more authority. The name United Nations itself was coined by US President Franklin D. Roosevelt and was first used in 1942, when representatives of 26 nations pledged their governments to continue fighting together against the Axis powers. The foundation was laid during the war, with the hope of a lasting peace to follow. So as these 51 delegations convened in London, they weren't starting from scratch. They were building on a dream that had been forged in the fires of war. The UN Charter had been signed just a few months earlier, in June 1945, in San Francisco. It laid out the organization's purpose and principles. But a document is just words on paper. January 10th, 1946 was the day those words were put into action. It was the day the General Assembly, the UN's main deliberative body, came to life. In that first session, they had a lot on their plate. One of the first orders of business was electing a president for the assembly. The man chosen for this historic role was Paul Henry Spaak of Belgium, a seasoned statesman who had seen his own country occupied twice. His election was symbolic. Belgium, a nation that had suffered immensely in both world wars, was now helping to lead the charge for peace. The assembly then went on to establish its rules of procedure and set up the main committees that would tackle everything from disarmament and economic recovery to social issues and decolonization. Think about the sheer scale of the challenges they faced. Entire cities lay in ruins. Millions of people were displaced, homeless, and starving. Economies were shattered. Looming over everything was the dawn of the nuclear age. The atomic bombs dropped on Japan just months earlier had introduced a terrifying new dimension to warfare. The delegates in London knew that the stakes had never been higher. Failure was not an option. One of the very first resolutions passed by the General Assembly, Resolution 1, dealt with this new atomic threat, establishing a commission to address the problems raised by the discovery of atomic energy. From the very beginning, the General Assembly was designed to be a unique platform. It's often called the Parliament of the World. Why? Because it's the only UN body where all member states have an equal vote. From the largest, most powerful nations to the smallest island states, each gets one say. This principle of sovereign equality was revolutionary. It meant that every nation, regardless of its size, wealth, or military might, had a voice in global affairs. Of course, the real-world influence of nations still varies greatly, but in the hall of the General Assembly, the ideal of equality is enshrined. Over the decades, the UN's membership has grown dramatically from those original 51 to 193 member states today. This expansion reflects the wave of decolonization that swept the globe in the post-war era, a process the UN itself played a significant role in. The General Assembly became a crucial forum for newly independent nations to assert their sovereignty and participate on the world stage. The discussions and debates held within its walls have mirrored the major shifts in our world. From the Cold War tensions and the fight against apartheid in South Africa to the push for sustainable development and climate action, the UN and its General Assembly have certainly faced their share of criticism. It's been called a powerless talking shop. And its resolutions are often non-binding, meaning countries can't be forced to follow them. We've seen conflicts continue despite UN calls for peace, and global challenges persist. But to dismiss it entirely is to miss the bigger picture. The General Assembly provides an indispensable space for dialogue. It's a place where leaders can meet, negotiate, and sometimes find common ground on issues that affect us all. It's where global standards on human rights, the environment, and international law are debated and adopted. Think of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, a landmark document proclaimed by the General Assembly in 1948. While not a binding treaty, it has become the foundation of international human rights law and has inspired countless constitutions and legal systems around the world. Think of the peacekeeping missions, authorized and funded by the Assembly, that have helped to stabilize conflict zones and protect civilians. The work of UN agencies like UNICEF, the World Food Program, and the World Health Organization, whose life-saving efforts are directed by mandates set forth by the global community through the Assembly. That first meeting in London was temporary. Later in 1946, the Assembly moved to New York, which would become the UN's permanent headquarters. But the spirit of that London session, the commitment to dialogue over destruction, lives on. Every year in September, leaders from around the world gather in New York for the General Assembly's annual general debate. It is a moment when the world tunes in to hear presidents and prime ministers lay out their visions and concerns. It is a direct continuation of the tradition that began on that cold January day in 1946. So, as we remember this day in history, let's appreciate the bravery and foresight of those 51 founding nations. They gathered in the shadow of a devastating war and dared to imagine a different future. A future where nations would talk through their differences instead of fighting over them. The United Nations is far from perfect, and its work is never done. The world is still full of conflict, inequality, and injustice. But the existence of the General Assembly is a testament to our enduring hope for a better, more peaceful world. It's a commitment, renewed every year, to the power of diplomacy and the fundamental belief that we are all in this together. That is the powerful legacy of what happened on January 10, 1946. Thanks for joining us on this journey back in time. If you found this interesting, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you never miss another story from history. Let us know in the comments what you think about the role of the UN today. We'll see you in the next video.